Since its inception with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has tried to keep a foot grounded in a consistent scientific reality. With the introduction of characters like Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and the Scarlet Witch, they've blended magic with science to create a unique and consistent world. We're going to take a look at how that came together. But before we get into how science and magic are incorporated into the MCU, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss any of our MCU videos. Comic book universes have never had a problem blending elements of science, magic, and mythology into one coherent universe. Often, these powers will live side by side in characters like Doctor Doom, who combines magic and science to menace the Fantastic Four. Even Superman, who can take a nuclear blast point blank, lists magic as one of his rare weaknesses. This is largely because comics have managed to build up something called the suspension of disbelief. That's a fancy storytelling term that refers to how much the audience will accept things outside of the normal world in order for the story to make sense. In standalone superhero movies, filmmakers only had to introduce one element or ask of the audience. You just simply have to accept that a radioactive spider bite gives Peter Parker superpowers for the rest of Spider-Man to make sense. When Marvel made the bold decision to create a shared world with all of their remaining characters, they had to create a world where Iron Man would eventually fight side by side with Doctor Strange. In order to understand how hard this actually is, you have to go back to the pre-MCU world of superhero movies. While the superhero blockbuster was certainly a thing, superhero movies were often hit or miss, typically flaming out around the third or fourth film. In 2007, the year before Iron Man hit theaters, Spider-Man 3 brought the Sam Raimi-directed movies to a disappointing end. Over at DC, Batman was in the middle of a reboot, trying to erase the memory of Batman and Robin and bat nipples. In fact, it was the success of Nolan's Batman trilogy that set the tone for this new era of the superhero movie. Christopher Nolan's Batman was meant to be grounded in reality, separating itself from the more fantastic elements of the previous Batman movies. To make sure things like a man in a flying armored suit or someone who turns into a giant green rage monster when it gets really mad feels realistic, Marvel turned to the Entertainment and Science Exchange, a part of the National Academy of Sciences, to give their science fiction a basis in real science. While there are no mechanical supersuits that fit in a briefcase which allow us to fly or shoot repulsor rays, there are exosuits in development that assist disabled people and astronauts, enhancing the abilities of everyone from soldiers to warehouse workers. While there's no super soldier serum or gamma radiation to make us stronger and more invulnerable, there's genetic research that has created the possibility of enhancing the physical attributes of people that could eventually cure genetic diseases or even make people stronger or faster. The fantastic elements in MCU are grounded in real, if speculative, science. Just don't go trying to get bitten by radioactive bugs. That still won't give you superpowers. Once you've built your foundation of science for your superhero movie reality, how do you go about introducing magical characters like Doctor Strange or Thor? Can there be a scientific explanation which covers both the Sorcerer Supreme and the Norse god of thunder that still gels with the science of super soldier serums and power suits? As it turns out, yes. First up was Thor. We know him as one of the founding members of the Avengers in both the comics and the movies. But Thor is the odd man out in the MCU's original Avengers lineup. He's not a super spy like Hawkeye or Black Widow, a science experiment like the Hulk or Captain America, nor a technological marvel like Iron Man. As you're well aware of, Thor is the god of thunder in Norse mythology. To bridge this gap, the folks in charge of the MCU turned to a science fiction legend, Arthur C. Clarke, and one of his 3 rules for science fiction. Clarke had famously asserted that sufficiently advanced technology would look like magic. It makes sense because if you were to show your smartphone to someone in the 19th century, there's a better than average chance you'd end up burned at the stake as a witch. Thor was introduced to Midgard, which is our Earth, meaning we're all Midgardians ourselves, through through a group of scientists studying the existence of multiple dimensions. This means that Thor is able to explain his godlike nature in terms of science. He points out that things we used to think of as magic are now science, and where he comes from, science and magic are the same thing. This means that the Bifrost Bridge can also be called an Einstein-Rosen bridge. Now, the God of Thunder is working in the same framework as Iron Man and Captain America, but there's still work to do to get from the alien super science of Thor to the Sorcerer Supreme. Even with Thor firmly in place, the series didn't feel like it could have the real Mandarin and his 10 magic rings fit in the MCU, much to some fans' frustration. The groundwork for that kind of magic actually has its roots in Phase 1 as well, in the form of the first Infinity Stone to pop up, the Space Stone, also known as the Tesseract. Why wouldn't they just give it one name? Anyway, in Captain America, the First Avenger, Red Skull wants it to power his super weapons. But in 2012's The Avengers, Loki uses it to open the door for the Chitauri invasion. In math, however, a Tesseract is a fourth-dimensional expression of a cube. What that actually means involves a lot of heavy math, but the important part is this: multiple dimensions. Multiple dimensions is a controversial scientific concept that seeks to explain some of the more perplexing elements of science, and it's also how the Marvel Universe squares magic and science under one rule set. To do this, Marvel turns to its tried and true method: have a scientist encounter it first, but this time in the form of skeptic and surgeon Dr. Stephen Strange. When Dr. Strange is introduced to the world of magic by the Ancient One, she explains that magic is really just people tapping into the power of other dimensions, and refers to spells as simply the source code of the universe. By manipulating these energies through spells and rituals, a sorcerer can manipulate our dimension in ways that are, in accordance with Clarke's third law, indistinguishable from magic. By having the MCU's first sorcerer also be a scientist, they've created a bridge between science and magic. There's more pieces to the puzzle, however, that fully integrate magic into the MCU, and one of those is hanging around Doctor Strange's neck. Inside the Eye of Agamotto is the last Infinity Stone we were introduced to before Infinity War, the Time Stone. As the name suggests, the Time Stone allows whoever wields it the power of time itself. This helps create one of the best set pieces in any superhero movie, where Doctor Strange, Mordo, and Wong have a fight with the followers of Dormammu in a world winding backwards. But more importantly, the Time Stone is manipulated by magic. This seems like a small thing, but it links the cosmic powers of the universe, its scientific laws, and magic under one set of rules that can be consistent in the MCU. With the door to magic open, we've seen Marvel include some magical characters outside of the MCU. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Marvel's first foray into television. They introduced two key magical elements from the comics. The first was the Darkhold, an ancient spell book written before the creation of our universe that contains unknowable power. Again, scientists encounter it and they don't see it as a spell book. The second introduction of magic in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in the form of Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider. In the comics, Reyes is possessed by the disturbed spirit of a dead relative, but on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he's granted the spirit of vengeance by, presumably, Johnny Blaze's Ghost Rider. The Rider in the show is a multi-dimensional being that can possess people from this dimension. This change to Reyes' origin means that the door is now open for both Zarathos and Mephisto to exist in the MCU with Ghost Rider. Marvel has gone from the Norse pantheon to devils and demons all under one umbrella. Up to this point, every new element of magic has been encountered by a scientist of some kind. But how do non-scientists react to magic when they encounter it? We get a hint of that in the second season of Daredevil on Netflix, when the man without fear encounters the Hand. But the real reveal is with the living weapon, the immortal Iron Fist. Unlike Stephen Strange or Jane Foster, Danny Rand isn't a scientist when he encounters the wonder of Kunlun. In fact, he's just a kid, so Danny takes the magic of Kunlun for granted and doesn't see any issue in explaining to, well, everyone that he beat up a magic dragon which gave him the power to focus his chi into the magical Iron Fist. Even when Danny Rand teams up with a bulletproof man, a blind person with enhanced senses, and a super strong woman who can fly, none of them accept this explanation. They roll their eyes at the eager Rand and assume there's a scientific explanation that Rand simply doesn't understand. This is reminiscent of a scene in Age of Ultron, where science bros Stark and Banner offer real-world explanations as to how the enchantment on Thor's hammer works. While Stark understandably goes through his list of relatable technologies, the biggest factor is that Steve Rogers gets it to move, and Vision is able to pick it up. This means that the enchantment is the actual explanation. Only those who are worthy can wield Mjolnir. Adhering to Arthur C. Clarke's third rule, the interdimensional science of the Asgardians is indistinguishable from magic in Midgard. This is the ultimate expression of magic in the science-based Marvel Cinematic Universe. This means that even the non-scientific characters still view the universe through a set of relatable laws, making it more believable to them that there's a scientific explanation behind Rand's ability to create a fist powerful enough to move Luke Cage than it simply being magic. Of course, Rand did really fight a dragon, something the rest of the Defenders realize when the fight seems to be over the bones of said dragon hanging out under the streets of Manhattan. But this doesn't change their fundamental understanding of the universe that they live in, where the God of Thunder is in a public team of superheroes, but science is still the fundamental backbone of the universe. With science and magic firmly in place, built on the same foundation, the MCU is now clear to introduce any of its magic or cosmic characters who are playing by the same set of core rules. This includes Kevin Feige's revelation that Wanda Maximoff's Scarlet Witch is in fact wielding chaos magic like in the comics, which has led some fans to theorize that Scarlet Witch might be the MCU's loophole to introduce mutants to the MCU, but that's for another video. What do you think about our explanation of science and magic in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Are there any magic or powers you're looking forward to seeing? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos like this one. Thanks for watching.